Hello everyone, welcome to Heavy Rotations. My name is Tom Jennings. I am your co-host here with my son Trevor Jennings to my right, and to my left, Trevor, we got a very special guest today.
Yeah, we do.
And his name is, well, I'll let you introduce him since I see him all the time. But I think it's the first time he's been here at your place.
This is true. On the Meadworks couch of all places.
The Meadworks couch.
Yes, which is where I know you from Meadworks. So it's very special to have you here on the couch.
Oh, I'm glad to be here.
And this is our buddy Steve.
Yes, Steve.
No last name, just Steve.
Yeah. Well, it's actually Hillebrand.
I was just gonna say
we
Steve.
got a brand, but we'll just call him Steve.
Yeah, just Steve.
Steve works.
Or we could call you Raspberry Mead.
I'll take that.
Yeah, if anybody's ever bartended, you know, like a lot of times you just remember people by the drink. Now, Steve, of course, I know Steve because by Steve, but he does drink Raspberry Mead at 810 Meadworks. Yes. And I'm certain you've been on this couch many times.
We're best buds because of a vinyl album.
That's right. That's right. But it's not these, though.
Not one of these.
Which vinyl album are we talking about?
The best live album of all time, Waiting for Columbus, Little Feat.
Yes, which is something we did. We haven't done any Little Feat, but we did a Little Feat related band called the Blues Busters, which for some reason that episode was our least watched episode.
It's true.
So if you can go back in the archives, they're all under Heavy Rotations. But yeah, that was now with Paul Barrere, and I think I might have played you that before. And Fubo, the guy from Bonnie Raitt's band. But
that was one of my favorite albums we did too.
Yeah,
it was really good. It turned out great. The album cover was, at first I didn't know if I was gonna like it, but the album itself was great.
It's good stuff. So what do we got this week, Steve? You gave. We're gonna turn over to you. We got two albums. One you gave to Trevor,
right,
and one you gave to me. So we'll start with the one that you gave to Trevor.
Oh, okay.
See what he's got to say.
Actually it's the Mothers of Invention, Frank Zappa's band. It's Over-Nite Sensation. Many of you know Dynamo Hum or Moving to Montana. So Trevor mentioned to me that he didn't know much Frank Zappa at all. So
I didn't know any at all.
Yeah. So I was like, Over-Nite Sensation. It's good starter Zappa, if you will. It's a little more approachable than some of his other stuff. So I'm curious, what did you think?
I loved it. I have listened to some Zappa. I saw Zappa's son play at Canalside.
Dweezil?
I don't remember. Yeah, it was Dweezil. I was about to say he had a crazy name. I saw him play at Canalside and I enjoyed it. And I tried to listen to a little bit of Zappa, and some of it it was out there a little. And there's also a lot of music to digest from Zappa. I mean, if you go on Spotify or anything and you look up Frank Zappa, there's just a ton. So it's like, where do I start? What do I do? And I've never really met, a Zappa fan, to kind of guide me. So I was very happy to kind of have this album to be able to listen to it. And I definitely agree. It's a very digestible album. It's still very out there, but it's in a great way. Very well put together. There's a lot of unique sounds. I don't know if it's effects on the instruments or if they're different instruments, but there's just a lot of variety to the music that I've never really listened to before, and it also kind of goes in very many different directions, but it's all still very cohesive. And he's got a lot of, he sings, he talks. I mean, this is one of those albums you put on and it's like an experience. You listen to the whole thing. It's not background noise.
Yeah,
This is what you're doing, and you put this album on. And it's great. It's got a great cover and everything too.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. It's my first experience with Frank Zappa was on the Dr. Demento radio show.
Oh wow.
Probably 1974. Don't Eat Yellow Snow. Very first album I ever bought was Apostrophe, which came out after this one. Interestingly enough.
Yeah, they were recorded at the same sessions. I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't know that, but my nephew stuck it in my face that I was wrong on that. I said, Apostrophe came out first. No.
Yeah, they were recorded during the same recording sessions. But that's, you talk about going through Spotify and trying to find a Frank Zappa album. I mean, the guy, you remember, because, we're of that age. Trevor's a lot younger. But, I mean, he was putting out, in an average calendar year, I think sometimes 5 and 7 albums a year. I mean,
5 and 7?
A year. Yeah. I mean,
that's insane.
And then the Beatles had put out a lot in a short period of time, CCR and things like that. But Zappa, as far as just content, it was always flying at.
That's essentially what he did. So he made music, and he was on Dick Cavett. That's a very interesting. Yeah. It's in black and white. He plays bicycle spokes.
Wow.
Yeah. So he's super imaginative. I'm really glad you liked it.
Yeah. Do you like all Zappa, or is there some stuff that you
There's
don't
some
necessarily
stuff
enjoy?
that's just you have to be a total Zappa head
Yeah,
to
okay.
appreciate. But most of the Zoodle Lures, Joe's Garage,
Yep.
Shake Your Booty, those are good ones.
Yep.
Joe's Garage got radio play for a long time.
Wow. What's the difference between the Mother's of Invention and just Zappa? Is it just Mother's of Invention's early Zappa?
The
Or
Mothers
is
of
it
Invention is a band that he put together, and
Yeah.
there's actually famous people in it. Jean-Luc Ponty, this guy was big.
Yeah, he went on to have a career. Some of the early, George Duke
Yeah,
had his own solo career, but
Yeah.
some of the early guys, Roy Estrada, he went on to play with Little Feat. In fact, most of Little Feat, I think, was in
yeah.
Frank Zappa's Mothers of Invention. But
Wow.
yeah,
So it's Dirty Love. That's a great song. Frank Zappa just he wasn't an obscure personality. So when he wanted to get a band together, people were willing to play with him. Apparently,
Yeah.
it was pretty difficult to work
Yep.
with.
Well, I can imagine just navigating through his material had to be very hard.
yeah, they said he was very particular.
Yep, and it had to sound a certain way.
Yep.
And I guess Bob Marley was like that too. But that's what I've heard, that Zappa was very particular. So
Have you ever seen him live?
I did at the New York State Fair in probably 1985. But he didn't play. He led a band, like an orchestra leader.
Really?
Yeah. So we were a little bit disappointed in that. I wanted to see him wail his guitar, but
Well, how do you feel about like live Zappa versus studio Zappa?
I've seen some. The studio Zappa is, like many studio cuts, just more intricate and harder to get live. It's just hard. I've seen "Moving to Montana" on a video, and they just don't hit the same notes the same way, and
Yeah.
where you expect something to be, because he changes the words around a little bit, and
Yep.
so when you've heard the same song for 10 years and then you see it live and it's not like you remember it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's interesting, we have a musician and a music writer and a listener today.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, Zappa was. I had a couple of buddies of mine who were really into Zappa, and one of my friends, his name was Spiro Peters, and actually I was just thinking about him not too long ago, and I kind of had lost touch with him. And when I heard "I'm the Slime," it was like, wow,
hey,
that's that
I
kind
am
of
the
kind of
slime from
relevant
the
to
video.
today. And
Yep.
the
Oh, yeah.
1970s, there were a lot of songs. If you haven't heard it, the theme is about the impact of television. Everybody was paranoid about television in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and then onward. But Spear was really into it. And unfortunately, I just found out that he passed away in the 1990s.
Oh.
And that was. But I just found that out recently. But he was a big, big Zappa fan, and he really turned me on to a lot of this stuff. And this was listen to this again, kind of brought back some good memories, because this was one of his favorites. This album.
Cool.
Shall we move on to our next selection?
The next
Yeah, what is our
selection.
next selection?
Yeah.
Let's look at that one. Now,
So Steve decided he was going to give me this one.
my your original goal was to try to find something the other guy liked.
Yeah.
My goal was to find something outside of your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
And Tom, you're really hard because you
Like everything.
Jesus, he knows everything about everybody.
Except Jay Roddy. He wasn't a fan of Jay
Yeah,
Roddy.
it's like, Tom, did you ever
It's
interview
okay.
this guy? Yeah. So
Yeah.
Triumvirat is a German prog band from the 70s. They're, I don't want to put them down, but they're kind of like Yes wannabes. There's a lot of keyboards and drums and stuff like that. The Spartacus is the whole story of Spartacus, one album, both sides, but different songs. And Tom's probably never heard of these people. So, what did you think, Tom?
Yeah, no, I'd actually never heard of them, but every song I heard, I felt like I'd heard before. I think that was the weird part. It was,
It's very indicative. It
Yeah.
comes from its time.
yeah, they borrowed heavily from a lot of other. Like I had to check the year that this thing was made because they just copped every single prog rock cliche that was known to man. There's moments where they sound a lot like early Genesis. There's a couple of songs, one where they do that bit breakdown from Yours Is No Disgrace.
Yeah.
So the keyboard player sounds a lot like Wakeman when he's playing a little bit in there. They got a little bit of that ELP thing going on, and then on occasion they sound like the Allman Brothers. You know, 'cause they get some of that kind of Hammond organ in the bluesy style. But
we
used
to hang out at a friend's basement and black lights and beanbag chairs, and he turned us on to this. And this was probably 1978, and I think this came out in 75. So I bought this that same year. This is the album I bought in 1978. I still have it. It's been halfway around the world.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we used to listen to it a lot. I mean, you essentially got stoned and kicked back in the black light and took a musical journey.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this on previous shows. Like, there's certain records. Like, I think it was King Crimson what we were talking about. If you were high, it was kind of an album you listened to when you were smoking marijuana with your friends or whatever.
I definitely want to smoke marijuana and listen to Zappa.
Well, Zappa never did any drugs, so
he didn't.
He was very anti-drug, and
Really?
Of course he died at a very young age too, which was strange because he didn't do any drugs. And he was very anti-drug. He didn't like if his band members did drugs. I mean, the whole 9 yards.
Wow.
But these guys here, I mean, it's they're just interesting cats. I didn't know how to feel about it. There was parts of it that I kind of liked, but again, I just felt like it was a little bit too cliched. And
I listened to it again on YouTube before I came over here, and I was like, "Holy moly!" But we loved it. So
yeah. And again, I just read this really good book about. It was talking about like the 4 great bands that made '70s rock, and they're talking about Cheap Trick, Kiss, Aerosmith, and Stars. So out of those 4, the odd man out was this group called Stars, S-T-A-R-Z, and I wasn't really familiar with them.
I've heard of them.
I feel like Stars to Kiss was kind of like Triumvirat is to Yes. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
If you're a Yes fan, you're gonna hear a lot of similarities in their music. You're probably gonna like Triumvirat, but you're going to go to the Mothership, which is a band like Yes before. I honestly, the only criticism I have of this album is I thought the drummer was pretty bad, honestly.
He didn't have a whole lot of moves.
No, and it's I
compared
feel like,
to what we were just listening to on the.
Oh sure, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because you look at some of these albums, musicianship is really, really important, and especially when you're looking at prog rock. And I hope there's no living relatives of the Triumvirat's drummer, but I mean, this guy was just, he was just he was just bad. I mean, he was the only one in the band that was really bad, and I can almost see other members of the band going, why the hell do we keep this guy? You know what I mean?
Dare I say, Ringo, right place at the right time.
Well, Ringo could keep a beat. I mean, Ringo was great at what he did, and he wasn't a lot of flash. kind of like Charlie Watts.
Yeah, Charlie Watts. He only had 2 drums, right, or something.
And they fit for what they were
doing.
And
he only had 1 move. He just did the same thing the whole show.
This guy was he was like it sounded to me like a 12-year-old trying to play Neil Peart. I mean, it was just, every time he had the opportunity to be like. And it was just like, I hit the microphone. But it was crazy. I was like, dang, dude. And a lot of times I don't really pick up that because you said I'm a very it takes a lot for me to be hypercritical of any recorded music. But man, these drums, and they were recorded really poorly as well. It's in the 70s, and Trevor's a drummer, so he may know a little of the history, he may not, but. In the 70s, man, that was what made or broke a good studio. If you could get a good drum sound, that's where they recorded. I mean, they did anything and everything. And some of them you hear it just sounds like boop, 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 boop. And other ones they got that big, and then in the 80s, of course, everything was reverb.
I noticed that earlier, and I was like, oh boy. But again, we thought it was spacey, and we were into Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and brain cell surgery and that stuff, and. So
it comes down to it's like when Trevor heard was talking about King Crimson last week, and we've had this discussion many times about how an album holds up. You know, there's certain albums that I listened to when I was young, and I listen to them now, and they belong in an era.
Yeah.
And then there's other albums that
mind you, I still
they
listen to
don't.
that. So.
Yeah, no, I would listen to this. I mean, if I saw the record, I'd pick it up because it's not. I don't think it's on like Amazon Music or Spotify or anything. I mean, it's a fairly rare album to get.
I have another one of their albums, and it's not as good as this one. So
Yeah.
I was just.
Well, hopefully it's a different drummer.
I bought it on a whim, and I was like, oh my god,
Jeez.
way too much experimenting. So
Yeah. No, I'd love you to listen to this drummer, Trevor, because you're a drummer. I don't know if
I don't know. I'm curious.
I don't know if it's just me, but
you
can
can
hang
a
on-
guitar player noticing.
you
it,
can
I'm
hang on
curious.
to it and listen to it.
well, I play guitar, but this album was almost completely devoid of guitar.
Yeah, I think there's only
some
like one
acoustic
song.
stuff where he does like an acoustic ballad.
Yeah, but it's almost all keyboards,
All keyboards. I mean, it sounds like there's more than one keyboard.
keyboard and synthesizer.
It's very
Yeah.
prog of them.
Oh my God, the keyboard players are like incredible. I mean, just outstanding. I mean, the piano work that they're doing, it's like this jazz piano stuff, and it's just
In the early '70s, lots of that stuff was still new.
yeah.
So people were still finding out what it could do.
Yeah, and I
You
think
know?
these guys probably copped, from ELP Yes and those different groups, but they did a good job of it. And I mean, it's definitely, as I said, something I never heard before, and
Yeah,
something that would,
and it's definitely
from
from
my
its
era.
age.
Yeah,
It's from the middle '70s for sure.
absolutely.
All right, so we got another record to talk
Yep.
about.
King Crimson Discipline, another one from my collection, because that's where the good stuff is, right?
The good stuff. Yeah, yeah.
And,
You do have a great collection. I mean, Steve.
Oh, thanks. Well, I lucked into a lot of it.
Steve comes into, back to the couch. A10 Meadworks is in Medina, New York, and not everybody's from the area, so it's a town near Buffalo and Rochester, New York. But A10 Meadworks is a meadery, not meat like is in hamburgers, but mead is in a honey fermented beverage. We say honey wine. Brian's gonna jump through.
Yeah, you
the
don't
camera
say
Yes.
and
wine.
choke us
Honey
out.
fermented beverage. We're gonna have to cut the wine
And
part out.
so it's a honey fermented beverage. And we started out, we kind of met hanging out on vinyl.
On
nights.
vinyl
We
night,
ran
right?
Vinyl records, and Steve's always brought in some great stuff. My favorite being your favorite one that you brought in that was obscure was the Alice Cooper Schools Out with
Oh,
the
yes.
panties as a
As the
it actually has panties as the
instead of the sleeve.
Really?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Oh my
And the panties version is actually
And
pretty rare.
I
That's
just
insane.
lucked into that one.
Yeah, so
So.
like the Cheech and Chong album with the big rolling paper, like that's kind of legendary.
Yeah.
As
I
is
see
the-
that around though.
Big
I was gonna
Bamboo.
Pick it up.
Yeah, you should get it. It's the
Yeah.
rolling paper, but most people, anybody who was smoking back in time, they smoked something with that.
Everybody
rolling
used the stupid paper.
paper. It was legitimate rolling paper.
I'm always skeptical that it has the paper because I've never actually seen the paper.
Yeah.
So when I open one up that has the paper in it, I don't know if that looks like the original one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
but we digress. So
Yeah.
Steve, we'll get back to
Yeah.
speaking of
So,
lack of discipline. Here we go.
These two just did a
King Crimson.
King Crimson album that was in a series of 3 with this one. This is the first one. Don?
Yep.
And it already has a higher thumbs up than the second one. I
Yeah.
think,
For Trevor,
consensus-wise.
yeah.
We listened to the A side upstairs before coming. I haven't listened to the B side yet, but I love the A side. The drumming in this is remarkable.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it's,
yeah.
and it's just a great. I didn't. So it's weird when I listened to the beat. I was like, "Oh, this is an '80s album," but I put this on. And I was like, "This doesn't have that same feel to it. It's kind of a little different." I mean, it sounds like the same band, but
Came out in
different album.
1981.
Yep.
Yeah, but I mean, Beat obviously was a little bit more of a product of its time. I think they were actually really trying to capitalize on MTV and maybe sell some stuff. But this album, I mean, this was when I think Trevor and I talked about it last week. It's that Adrian Belew, when he joined King Crimson with Fripp and Tony Levin and Bill Bruford, he didn't want it to be called King Crimson because this was very much a kind of left turn for the King Crimson brand, if you will. But the 3 album covers all have that same sort of look and feel, as does the music. And
I saw them do this album live at an outdoor
Wow.
show in Germany, a summer night show. So some of my Germany friends will remember that they went. But
Well,
they
hopefully you were smoking marijuana, because this is a marijuana smoking album as well, since we're talking about... We should just change the name of the show to... Do you have to be high to listen to this album?
And that just needs to be a question.
Yeah, I feel like we listen to it straight and we listen to it high. You definitely want to hear this.
Oh, I've done both, and it's equally. It comes out. It sounds the same. So.
Oh, that's cool.
It's just altogether good.
Yeah,
no matter what.
Altogether good. There are some albums that Pink Floyd. I feel like you could get away with high or not high, but King Crimson, you certainly hear some things.
There's definite headphone albums for sure, and there's other albums like Close to the Edge or whatnot. That's headphone stuff. Although if you have great speakers and your whole house shakes, that's an experience.
Yes.
When the birds come in and it just that's one of my favorites too.
So how did you find this album? I mean, this album's probably a little bit after they say there's a certain age where you really start to get into music. And
the first time I got it, my friend bought it for me as a Christmas gift. It was a cassette.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was it. I had the cassette for a long time and wore it out. And so I was like, rats. So I was just bored one day. I'm surfing. And so I asked the internet for King Crimson Discipline. And doing, here pops up Walmart. So I bought it.
Yeah,
nice.
And it's a 180 gram and all that stuff. So
not that we're discouraging people from buying albums from Walmart, but buy it from a local guy first.
Yeah, get it. Yeah,
support your local records.
I felt terrible doing it, but I wanted it and I couldn't find it anywhere else. So
yeah, well, that's a tough part. It's hard to find. I mean, this is an album. As I think we were discussing upstairs, that when you do find a used copy, they're expensive.
I'm not even sure if they even ever originally put it on vinyl.
Oh, it definitely was.
Was it? 81 was when cassettes were just taken over.
Yeah.
But I guess there's still vinyl around.
Yeah, I think vinyl started. Well, I do everything to Tom Rundgren because I'm a big Tom Rundgren fan. But I remember the last vinyl album that came out was '89.
Yeah, I was going to say by 87, 88.
So by 90, you're looking at cassettes and compacts.
The record stores were just dying.
Yeah. Yeah, most of the stuff you got, if you want to get something early 90s, it was German pressing. Because I feel like Germany held on to vinyl 5 to 10 years after the U.S.
They were, my opinion when we lived there was that they were like 10 years behind us and everything.
Yeah.
They really were, even in protests and what they wore and every music
and prog
taste.
rock, just like,
Yeah. Absolutely.
Drumming. They were 10 years behind us in drumming, Triumvirat. So I shouldn't pick on the Germans. I thought I was half German, but my Ancestry.com came back. I'm actually Scottish, not German.
Next time,
really?
Irish and Scottish, not Irish and German.
I found out I was more Scottish than Irish.
Your joke doesn't really work as much.
I know. I used to tell this great joke that I'm half Irish, half German, which meant that I'd get drunk and want to invade Poland.
Oh.
Got to be a history person.
But Germans get drunk too.
Joke.
What's that?
Now what do you got now for the Scottish?
Man, I get drunk and watch Austin Powers. I don't know. I eat haggis. I don't know. I've never been in touch with my Scottish heritage.
Nice.
So, and what does this have to do with King Crimson? Absolutely nothing. But,
or perhaps it does.
Perhaps it does. It does. Yeah. So, well, I guess we probably should get ready to wrap it up. Steve, this has been a great time.
I'm having a hell of a time. So thanks for having me.
Let's make a promise. This is not his last time on his couch.
Sweet, thanks.
This isn't a casting couch, so you don't have to feel any pressure. It's just a couch where we get to sit on,
and talk music.
Oh, one thing I forgot too. We're back to Over-Nite Sensation. We got to end with a little bit of trivia.
Sure.
So today, as the day we're filming, Todd Rundgren was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And on Over-Nite Sensation, other than Frank Zappa, he had an uncredited female on that album doing the background vocals.
Oh.
That made it into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame today too.
Uncredited, huh?
Uncredited. She's not on there.
What song?
But you can hear her voice. Do you know the song?
Hear her voice. Well, I'm
on
Dynamo Hum. Bunch of them. Any guesses?
No.
What's love got to do with it?
Well, is she on Dirty Love?
What's love got to do with it?
Oh, that's the song she did first.
But who's the
who sang that?
Yeah. Nobody knows that song. Come on. What?
Yeah, I know what it is. I'm trying to think.
Look at this.
I'm trying to
Meredith,
put her
our
face.
camera person.
Yep.
You don't know who sings that song?
Is that Tina
I do. I'm
Turner?
just, don't want to ruin
Tina
it.
Turner, yes.
go.
Tina Turner is on Over-Nite Sensation.
Nice.
Uncredited. She was paid, I think, like $25 for the session.
She probably is
Her with
Dynamo,
Ike
huh?
Turner.
25 bucks?
And they had the Ikeettes, because it was Ike Turner and the Ikeettes, and the Ikeettes were the background female vocals. So if you listen closely with your headphones on,
You could hear her back there?
you might hear Tina Turner. Anything else, Trevor, before we wrap up?
No, I mean, do we have anything special coming up? Do we have some special guests to play some music or?
Yeah, we're gonna be looking at Josh Kogovan. We asked he'll probably be coming out playing some
Oh, cool.
songs. So eventually we got to get him out here, and
He's another Meadworks,
Meadworks.
associate.
we're gonna be inviting some other people out here, and hopefully anybody out there who wants to guest on the show. Our executive producer Gaffer, which turns out is a person that has to do with is the head electrician, which is of course
We didn't know what that was for a while.
Oh.
just,
We were just
he was
saying
just
it.
saying
Yeah.
it. But we looked it up, and
Really?
she is indeed the gaffer. There's a light over there. That
Yeah, she turns it on,
operates,
so she's the head electrician.
This is true. Yes.
So Meredith,
Yes.
she will be introducing a dog. No, she introduces her dog Baxter, but she's going to introduce an album by July Talk at some point,
Yes.
and whenever we get around to that. But said, if subscribe, share. If there's anything you like about the show, let us know. If there's something you don't like, just don't watch. That's all.
Yeah.
It's easier that way, isn't it?
Just turn it on for background noise.
There you go. Just get high and listen to it. It
Yeah.
sounds so much better.
Everything is better with weed.
Yeah, everything's
It's
better.
true.
Just we're like Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
Okay. All right. Again, thank you, Steve. Thank you, Trevor. Thank you, Meredith. Baxter and Reagan, the dogs, thank you for not barking too much. And we will see you next time on Heavy Rotations.